So one of the biggest questions that I get from people as they're working hard and they're coming up on retirement is, how much do I need to retire? Here's how much I've got. I've got this junk drawer full of accounts and there's some money in there, but I just don't know, like, is it enough? And there's a pretty complex bunch of math that needs to go into that, with all kinds of rates of return and market volatility and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, people kind of have a number that they think about. And I wanted to see what Wall Street is recommending to kind of help people get their mind around it. Now, we're all human beings. We all have things that we're doing. We're coding software, flying airplanes, or putting out fires. I personally am probably driving my daughter out to soccer 15 times a week. So everybody's busy. So a rule of thumb is like a good place to start, but it can actually set you up for some traps in retirement. So if I haven't met you yet, my name is Chris Reed. I'm the owner of Capital Partners Wealth Management. I make these videos because I spent 20 years in the Marines helping people, and just because I do money stuff now doesn't mean my mission stops. And I've actually been contacted by some people who've watched some of these videos who said, hey, I took this to my financial advisor and it's really helped. So that makes me feel good. So if you find something useful on here, feel free to take it to your financial advisor and see if it can help you out. So I read a Fidelity article. Fidelity is a great company, but I just kind of wanted to talk about some of the things that they were recommending as a good rule of thumb and why that might lead you into a little bit of danger. So Fidelity does a good job of like helping you come up with a rule of thumb. And they're taking a look and they're saying that all these different ages, we should have a certain amount set aside. But where the tricky math starts to come in is all these different amounts have so many variables that go into them. So what Fidelity is saying here is, by the time you retire at age 67, you should have about 10 times your annual income set aside in order to successfully get in and through retirement and still have money in the bank when you pass away. But when you get into the fine print, you start to see that they've said things like, hey, we need to assume here that you're going to pass away at age 93. We're going to retire at age 67 again, and we're going to live on about 45% of our income that entire time. So here's where we have to start to get into real financial planning and why it's a little bit more complex than that, and why a good rule of thumb might actually lead you astray. So to get into it, we're just going to take all the assumptions that Fidelity made here. We're going to start with Sally retiring at age 67. She's currently 67 and she makes about $170,000 a year. And just for this scenario, I've kind of broken it out into what is a typical junk drawer of accounts, which is some 401k money. Maybe we did some Roth conversions or rolled an old Roth over from a previous employer. Maybe Sally loves to do her own investing, so she's a DIY investor. So she has $400,000 in a grab bag full of mutual funds, ETF stocks, that type of thing. And then because the market's been volatile and terrible and inflation is all over the place, I have met many, many people who are sitting on a whole bunch of cash because, quite frankly, they're almost paralyzed with fear, because if they get aggressive with it and the market tanks, they're going to lose it. But then the other comment I hear for a bunch of cash these days is, I'm not keeping up nearly with the pace of inflation. So they're actually losing money on that cash. But for this scenario, we're just going to talk about a 6% growth rate and then roughly about 45% of her income. Now, what I've discovered in 10 years of helping people get into and save in retirement is, especially in those first retirement years, this is one of the numbers we're going to focus on, and we're going to focus on this, and then we're also going to focus on what happens to all these things if those numbers change right as we get into retirement. So if we take a look here at Sally and she retires at age 67, and we've got all her assets lined up here. Here's that 401k. She's done a good job of saving into the Roth. And if we take a look and we just kind of average out some expenses here, this is about 45% of that $1.7 million per year. And we've gone ahead and we're growing all that money up at 6%. Now, here's where the rule of thumb comes in. Under this rule of thumb, so you can see here when she gets into retirement at age 67 with her $1.7 million, she's spending about $4,200 more per month than she actually has. But that's okay, because this number is continuing to grow up based on a 6% stock market. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is you're going to say, hey, wait a minute. When the dot-com bubble crashed, when the housing bubble crashed, when the inflation bubble crashed, I didn't make 6% per year. I made 22% to the negative, or I made negative 22% in a year. So that's when all this math really starts to get hard. If everything just moves along all hunky-dory, you can see that, hey, here at age 100, Sally's going to have $3.5 million. That's a good day. But we all know that a financial plan is good until you hit the print button and then it goes completely out of date. So here's an example of what happens if Sally, with all the same inputs, instead decides to spend maybe $100,000 per year in the first 10 years of her retirement. I personally believe that anybody who works that long deserves to enjoy their money, enjoy their family, enjoy that time that they can't get back. And from age 67 to about age 77 is about the time when that happens, because after that, because of health and other things, people tend to slow down. So if we take and we look and we assume $100,000 per year roughly for 10 years, and then back to $48,000 per year at the end of that 10 years, you can see the drastic difference that that has here on the amount of money in the bucket left when Sally finally makes it to age 100. When I see in a financial plan decreasing assets as we get to age 100, that starts to make me nervous. I want those numbers going the other way. And finally, one of the biggest risks that I see people take that's not necessary to take is as they get closer to retirement, they don't safeguard their money because they think they just have to sit in cash. Now, there are other things you can do to not be exposed to market downside, but still capture a bunch of the market upside. And that's really what I focus on in my practice when I de-risk retirement buckets, is taking that money and still making money on that money without taking unnecessary risk. So this is what happens in a 20% market decline, where I took 20% out of each of these accounts. And you can see that when that happens with that spending, $1.7 million actually will only last Sally here until age 90. So that's where it can lead you into danger if you don't have a proper income plan or the tools to create that income or the tools to survive a market crash. So that rule of thumb really isn't going to work for you if you want to take $10,000 out to go see the grandkids and go on a vacation and the market just tanked 20%. You're not going to feel comfortable and confident doing that. And again, losing money is one thing, but losing valuable time with our family and our friends and things that you work so hard for, that's the worst part. So if something in this video has helped you out, or if you have a specific question, go ahead and comment below. We'll try and get you an answer. Or if you're a DIY investor, really think about your income planning distribution, your market volatility, how you're going to protect your money without giving up a bunch of the upside, and how you're going to take that money out, because income planning is the most important thing you can do in retirement. Not because it matters if you die with an extra $5 in the bank, but because you want peace of mind and confidence every time you make a withdrawal from those retirement accounts so you can live your best life. So if something here helped you, go ahead and share this with somebody or hit the like button. That'll help other people maybe find this video and they can get organized in their financial life so that they can have more confidence in what they're doing going forward. Thank you.